I am fired up. I am fired up. And let me tell you why.
Why are you fired up?
Tell us all about it.
Let me tell you why. So yesterday, President Zelensky gives a rousing address to a joint session of Congress. Really one of the most incredible pro-democracy, pro-freedom speeches that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and that I think we've ever seen in history. There was a moment in the clip when President Zelensky comes out to address Congress. Remember, President Zelensky has a mark on his head for Putin. They are actively trying to kill him right now as he's addressing Congress. And as he walks out, he receives a standing ovation from all members of Congress, other than Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's looking at her phone or looking around. And so the MeidasTouch account, the main account, tweets very, very specifically, because words matter and words have meaning. And guess what, people? Words have definitions and words carry with it weight. And MeidasTouch cares about words. And so, Brett, I want you to very specifically state what the tweet that MeidasTouch account said.
I feel like you're deposing Brett right now. I love it. Let's do this.
I know. And I'm going to let me pull the tweet directly because I don't want to parse any words. I don't want to paraphrase. I want to say exactly what I said. So
no taking the fifth on this one, Brett.
Yeah, Brett, definitely. Just go pull it up. I would expect that you would have it open. It's not like this was a surprise podcast.
Yeah.
Jordy makes the outlines. Jordy makes the outlines and I don't see it.
why do I have to get thrown under the bus? I
rewrote this tweet like multiple times to
we rewrote the tweet. Yes.
Yeah, we rewrote the tweet. And so it said, as Zelensky is greeted by the US Congress to a standing ovation, Marjorie Taylor Greene refuses to applaud and instead appears to grab her cell phone. So, as we said, during the moment that Zelensky is greeted by the US Congress to a standing ovation, meaning while everybody at that moment is standing up and applauding, giving a standing ovation, Marjorie Taylor Greene was at that moment refusing to applaud and instead appeared to grab her cell phone, which she was grabbing her cell phone.
So that was a clip. That was a clip that occurred on C-SPAN. You could all watch it with your eyes for those watching it on YouTube.
Yeah, and it wasn't an edited clip or anything. It was literally, it was pulled from the C-SPAN feed. So anybody watching C-SPAN at that time, this is what you saw with the C-SPAN cameras. You saw everybody respectfully giving a standing ovation to President Zelensky. And you saw Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of get up, check her cell phone and kind of look around.
Also, the definition of applause, what applause means, a demonstration of approval, that is also going to be important. We go about our day. That was one of 1,000 things that we did yesterday. I mean, not joking. So we produced in the morning the Mea Culpa Michael Cohen podcast, which is nearly at 100,000 views on YouTube, where him and Glenn Kirshner were talking about issues. They're like the biggest experts in the world on the potential prosecutions of Trump. So we get them on our network early on. Our partner who we work with, Patriot Takes, they put the video on later in the day of Marjorie Taylor Greene giving a rebuttal speech. More on that in a moment to President Zelensky. We also have the Kremlin File podcast that goes yesterday, where we had like the foremost expert on Russian disinformation on who debunks like 1,000 Putin lies.
I want to pause there for a sec because this was an incredible episode of Kremlin File. So Kremlin File is really, it's like the preeminent podcast on Russia and the rise of autocracy in Russia.
Produced by
MeidasTouch. And so this episode yesterday, they had on a Ukrainian researcher who has set up a website to debunk all of Russia's disinformation campaigns. And so it's incredible, hearing the insight from this guy in Ukraine who has dedicated his life to building this platform to combat Russian, these fake news stories, like actual fake news stories and fake videos that Russia's releasing and all their propaganda. So I just thought it was incredibly fascinating. And yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that was it was absolutely great to have that. And we produced probably, hundreds of tweets yesterday, 1,000 data points of content from us and from our kind of creative partners out there who were working diligently to fight for democracy. And one of them actually was
we focused on the fact that, and this was not focused on by mostly all of the mainstream media, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is not a fringe figure in the Republican Party, the Republican leadership, people who are prominent Republican figures, say that if they take over the House, Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to get major prominent positions. She's basically the voice, the mouthpiece for the Republican Party. They don't condemn her. They don't say negative things about her, and they let her have these platforms. She gave a pre-scripted rebuttal, to President Zelensky, where she gave misinformation after misinformation. She states falsely that Obama created Ukraine. She spouts the propaganda that Ukraine, it has Nazis and engages in Nazism at a high level. False fact after false. She says that the United States should not fund Ukraine with military aid, with weapons, with supplies. She says that Putin is going to win. This wasn't some random off the rails speech. This was a scripted, formal speech that she gave on her official account.
And her message was Ukraine should surrender. That was the message of her speech after hearing this riveting speech by President Zelensky. Ukraine should surrender was her message.
Where's the mainstream media covering that? Traitorous conduct. And MeidasTouch covered that. So we go about our day. And then in the evening, the first newspaper, if you want to call it newspapers anymore, the first digital magazine, it's a digital magazine now, Newsweek, did like a fact check and basically said that our video from earlier in the day, that frankly I even forgot about at this point, was even a thing because it was such a minor video in the swing of all of the pro-democracy we work, that she was actually clapping. And that there were later clips of her clapping where she touched her hands very tepidly. I thought, this is stupid, but whatever. I was going to joke with the brothers. I said, you wait, Daniel Dale's going to come with a fact check.
I definitely made a joke about it to somebody. I think I made a joke about it to Jordy. Just wait for Daniel Dale to get his hands on this blockbuster of a story.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
Sure enough, we wake up this morning and Daniel Dale gives a message that what he's been working on is a story that's going to fact check MeidasTouch for saying exactly the quote that Brett read, that when Zelensky came out, that Marjorie Taylor Greene refused to applaud. And he goes out, he says, well, I'll give you some time to respond. And then he posts it right away. Even
that was the weird thing. He said, I got a message and I'll read you the times. I got a message from him at 6:53 a.m. Hey, I'm doing this story, would like some clarity on this at 6:53 a.m. However, he posted a tweet about it at 6:36 a.m., about 20 minutes prior to even reaching out for our response and our context of it. So he posted without even getting our comment on it. And so at that point I said, I guess, I said, Daniel, I'm happy to speak to you about this and provide you context and let you know what's going on here. But I see you already went on Twitter, with a 6-tweet rant. So I guess we'll talk about it on there. And he said, okay, sounds good.
Remember when the right-wing media spread the Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is giving a response, a rebuttal to Biden. And then remember all the other press, not the radical right press, mainstream press, bought that hook, line, and sinker and wrote, oh, there's a progressive rebuttal and the progressives are eating each other up because progressive just buy into this right-wing garbage talking points. And here we actually have a Republican member of Congress giving a rebuttal to President Zelensky at a pivotal moment when Ukraine is winning the war. Crickets. You don't hear a thing from mainstream media. And the first thing that we hear is this is what Daniel Dale wants to focus on, is whether or not she clapped. And he's going to write a story saying that MeidasTouch put disinformation out there. Let's be clear, though, if we want to talk about actual facts here for a second, because when we break down what applause are and the timing, Brett was very specific about the actual tweet. She refused to applaud as Zelensky was going out. And then he even wrote in his tweet, it was a tepid,
She was a pretty tepid clapper, but full footage showed that she clapped 4 times.
She clapped 4 times later. Later in the speech, she clapped 4 times.
He said when Zelensky and Pelosi appear, he said Greene claps 3 to 4 seconds, stops Graham's phone. So that was his clap. And I'm playing the video right now for the viewers of what he is counting as applause. And I just want you to look at this with your own eyes and say if that's applause. And I'll also say this. Okay, say this was your wedding or something. Say you just told your friend that you got married, that you're getting engaged, okay? And this was their response. How would you feel? I feel like it's like a Larry David, like Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where he has a friend, like a friend who is the star of a play, and the friend looks out into the audience. He sees everybody else standing up, and then he sees Larry looking down at his phone, getting up and kind of like playing patty cake with his hands for 2 seconds and sitting down. Like that would be the plot of an entire episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Actually sounds like a great episode of Curb. I gotta be honest with you.
Like Jordy,
here's the thing though. Do I want to be talking about the applause?
No.
Or is it a clap? No. And you know how you know I don't want to talk about? Because that was one little tiny freaking thing we did yesterday out of 1,000 things that we did yesterday. And where we focused on yesterday was Marjorie Taylor Greene being a traitor to the United States of America, and Republicans being traitors to the United States of America, and Fox News being traitors. And you have a choice when you are media. You have a choice of what you're going to cover. And you're going to cover pro-democracy? Are you going to cover Ukrainian bravery? Or are you going to rush to the defense of Marjorie Taylor Greene and claim that later claps, having nothing to do with the clip that we showed, shows that she is applauding and fact-check? The biggest power the media has is the stories that they focus on. And so the reason that I'm focused on this on the beginning of the show, because in many ways, diverting attention and focusing on these issues and putting the resources of a powerful platform like Daniel Dale has into this type of issue when he should be fact-checking everything she said that was false in her rebuttal to Zelensky, that Obama created Ukraine, that Putin is winning the war, that this is a both sides issue where both sides are to blame for Russia's unlawful invasion. That's what you should be spending your time fact-checking. You should spend your time fact-checking everything and the lies that are spewed every single night on Fox News by Tucker Carlson, by Laura Ingraham. And this is what you choose to spend your time. This was his main story of the day. Are you kidding me? Mainstream media. And I go back to the rebuttal on the progressive rebuttal to Biden, because this highlights exactly what is wrong with our media today. Because on the right wing, you have radical right fascists who know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Tucker Carlson knows what he's doing. Rupert Murdoch knows what he's doing. They're out there to manipulate minds every single night and to radicalize a portion of our country with false and disgusting information every single night. And on the other hand, you have people like Daniel Dale who are focused on fact-checking applause versus a clap, and the clip that we have, which was very specific, and then tried to say that's disinfo. That's not disinfo. And I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired of this media being pathetic. It's pathetic. And this is why MeidasTouch exists. And you know what also bothers me? I would say truthfully, in response to, us, and, we corrected Daniel Dale because we're fighters. I'm not going to sit on the sideline as someone lies about me, my brothers, and our movement. So we pointed out everything that we said here. We're like, Daniel, we said at the beginning, this was applause. It's different than clapping later. It's applause at the beginning. We were very specific in our words when President Zelensky goes out. But then you have people who identify, I suppose, as progressives or on the left, say, leave Daniel alone. Leave, he's a good guy too.
Can't stand that.
This is a movement where we fight for democracy. This is a movement of life or death. That's what it is, because those are what the stakes are right now. This is a movement where I'm going to fight every single day for everyone who's a Midas mighty, everybody who cares about democracy. I don't care if that's liberal. I don't care if that's progressive. I don't care if that's conservative. If you care about democracy, I am going to fight for you. And if you don't like fighters, if you don't like people who are going to punch back at lies and stupidity, I'll tell you what, MeidasTouch may not be the movement for you. You may not want to be a part of a pro-democracy movement. Jordy, I have no clue what you're pointing at. Right?
There's the door. Get out if you're not ready to fight for democracy.
Jordy's pointing at the green wall, I think, and his open closet.
Jordy's pointing at the closet. But I mean it, and I'm fired up, and I'm fired up because the stakes are so high. This isn't watching a basketball match of the Raptors versus the Lakers and covering it as an announcer. Oh, LeBron James is dribbling the ball down the court. Oh, and then the Raptors take the ball. Oh, he shoots a three-pointer. Oh, he shoots a foul shot. This is life or death. Hospitals are being bombed in the Ukraine. A school building is being bombed in Ukraine, being intentionally targeted by Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has talked about ethnic cleansing within his states, which we'll talk about in a second. So enough of the pathetic media. You're either fighting for democracy or, frankly, you're just as bad as Tucker Carlson.
I don't know, Ben. Daniel Dale has a pretty good clap timeline.
He put a clap timeline.
Pretty good clap timeline.
But just think about that.
And Pelosi
He's getting
appear.
a real salary from a real network.
And I think, and he's done great work in the past with Trump and stuff. But I honestly just think, I don't think he knows what the cover.
No, he did the same thing.
Yeah,
I just remembered he did the same thing during the January 6th insurrection, where we called out Marco Rubio, and we called out Marco Rubio for supporting the insurrection. He goes, fact check, false. It's like Marco Rubio supported all of Trump's bogus big lie stuff. Marco Rubio encouraged the trucker convoy to knock Biden's bus off the road.
Yeah.
And then because Marco Rubio was like, yeah, that was not a good insurrection. I'm against that. Marco Rubio said it. Fact check.
Cleared. Cleared of all prior wrongdoing.
You have to focus on context. You have to focus on what's at stake here. It's not. This isn't just some silly. I wake up and I just, what should I write about today? Oh, let's write about clapping. No, this is democracy on the line, here and abroad, with Ukrainians bravely fighting for our democracy each and every day, as we have American traitors in the Republican Party, leaders who are out there rooting for Putin.